The self alone is the sole aid for the realization of the Supreme Self, or the infinite consciousness, or just consciousness, because consciousness is infinite. It is one's own self that strives to abandon one's own sorrow, and for this, the realization of one's own self by oneself is the only course. What you need to ask yourself is, what's meant by self here? Is it the limited self, the egoistic self, or is it what we could call the transcendental self? Only you can do it, but who are you? What is the nature of yourself? This is the inquiry you undertake. And who's undertaking that inquiry? You can look at who's undertaking the inquiry. Hence, O Ram, while yet remaining active in this world, talking, taking and leaving, etc., be without the mind and realize that you are pure consciousness. You don't do anything. It's consciousness that does everything. Even self-inquiry, it's consciousness that's doing that. Don't appreciate that just as a notion or as an understanding. Look at it. Look at what is doing anything. Who is it that's doing these things? Is it you? Who are you? What is the nature of you? What is the nature of what you're referring to by the word I? Abandon notions such as, this is mine, that is he, this I am, and be established in the consciousness of undivided oneness. As long as the body lasts, consider the present and the future with an equanimous consciousness. Be forever established in the consciousness of the self in all states, youth, manhood and old age, pleasure and pain, in the waking, dream and sleep states. So we practice this inquiry into the nature of ourself as often as possible. And here it's saying, it doesn't matter what age you are, what sort of condition you're in, or even if you're awake or asleep. Normally, the waking, dream and sleep states are spoken of as figuratively, when we're awake to ourself or whatever. But I think here it's meant literally, waking, dream and sleep states. And this is an interesting line of inquiry. If you're in touch with your own consciousness, your own nature, what happens when you're sleeping? What happens when you're dreaming? It's something which I've had an interest in, and from what I can gather, most spiritual teachers, well, as one of them said, when sleep comes, let it come. It's not something you can control, because this whole thing's not about control. And yet, perhaps with more practice, there is an awareness which continues through sleep. It's something which I've looked into and tried various techniques which haven't really got anywhere. I'd be interested to hear from anybody else who can maintain some sort of awareness through sleep. I think there's a danger though of this becoming a bit of a distraction. We need to bear in mind that realization is not about being in the same state all the time, because you can't actually engage with the world in that case. You need to externalize your consciousness, as it was said earlier on. To engage with things, you need to take the attention out in order to catch a bus or get in a car or fill in a form. But then you can bring the attention back. It's about not letting the attention get hijacked, unconsciously hijacked all the time. That's what it's about. There are times when the attention will not be resting in itself, and that's when it's engaged in activity, and possibly also during sleep. But certainly I'm sure there are possibilities of maintaining or bringing the attention back even during sleep. But I think if that happens, it happens, and if not, then it's not such a big deal. Abandon the impurity of objective perception, hopes and desires. Objective perception is the apparent perception of objects. These things are the result of the cognitive process, which is the result of the mind, which takes us away from our essential consciousness. Remain established in self-knowledge. Give up notions of auspicious and inauspicious happenings. Give up visions of the desirable and the undesirable. Know that you are the essence of consciousness. Give up notions of auspicious and inauspicious happenings. In other words, don't get caught up with trying to read things, trying to interpret things. These are, again, just stories. Stories of what is desirable and undesirable. Consciousness gets lost in these stories, and what we're being exhorted to do here is to return to realization of the nature of our essential consciousness. Realize that subject, object, and actions do not touch you, or they don't touch consciousness. Remain as pure consciousness without any disturbance in it. Know, I am the all, and live in the waking state as if in deep sleep. So here is being spoken of metaphorically. You live in the waking state as if in deep sleep. You're awake to the nature of yourself, and you appear to be in deep sleep in the sense that you're unshakable. Somebody if you try to wake up somebody who's in a deep sleep, it's very difficult. Be freed from conditions known as duality and non-duality, and remain in a state of equilibrium, which is a state of pure consciousness and freedom. Realize that this cosmic consciousness is indivisible into I and the other. Thus remain firm and unshakable. It's quite a contrast to the Taoist teachings, actually. We need to be careful about this being firm and unshakable. It's like you're being assailed and you need to brace yourself. That's the wrong way of thinking, and it leads into some quite unpleasant ways of thinking, as we'll find later on in this chapter. What you really need to do is be steering steadfastly, and when you steer, though, you take into account everything that's going on, and you're open to it without being distracted by it.